Welcome to the AOI podcast series. I'm Sarah Cicero, and I'm here with Todd McCrum, Senior Vice President and GM of AOI's Broadband business. Today, we're going to gather Todd's frontline insight on the key trends in cable TV and how tech vendors like us can help operators navigate these changes to build the future-ready networks we need. Welcome, Todd. Nice to have you.
Thank you, Sarah. Good to be here.
Okay, so let's get into it. AOI's 2026 outlook emphasizes reliability, cost control, and avoiding overbuilds. What's fundamentally changed in how cable operators think about network investment today?
Yeah, it's a great question. So obviously cost is always going to be king with all the network operators, but I think the big change is intelligence in the network. They want to add intelligence for multiple reasons. One, they want to be able to do more remote management of their networks. That's going to save them time and operational costs. Two, they want better customer sat. They want to be able to get out and maintain this network and fix problems before they become customer impacting.
All right, so seeing upgrades happening already for DOCSIS 4.0, 1.8 gigahertz, et cetera, are we underestimating the operational complexity of these upgrades compared to the technology itself?
I don't think so. I think that the biggest change has been training, right? So we're adding a lot of software and a lot of automation into the setup and installation of these networks, which is different than what these technicians that do all the installs have been doing for 30, 40, 50 years. So I think the complexity has actually gotten better. It's much easier to set these networks up and go out and install them. The training is the most important thing. Once we see that people get trained, the speed at which they're able to deploy is faster than it's ever been.
Okay. Where are we with network convergence? Do you see it happening between cable, fiber, and wireless, or will they remain distinct ecosystems in most areas?
Yeah, I think that they continue to be distinct networks. There's more discussion and more architectural work around that today than I've ever seen. I think someone's dubbed it the hybrid fiber coax wireless type network. So we're seeing a lot of talk about that, but for now it still remains pretty distinct.
And why do you think it's so hard? Like, what's taking the longest? Like, is it one network versus the other is harder to bring into the others?
Yeah, so I think that there's two things. One is once you start with a network, when you want to upgrade that for the existing services you have, the most cost-effective way to do that is to find solutions that drop into that network. If you're going to go out and converge those networks, there are requirements for wireless across the cable network and wireless across other networks that are going to take some fundamental changes on how the network is architected. So I think to see that change, we're going to have to see a combination of new hardware, new software, and quite frankly, a new architecture.
Yeah. Okay, so then what does future-proofing a cable network actually mean in 2026?
I think that the future-proofing is twofold. One, it's about allowing more bandwidth for higher speeds. So as you see in cable, movement to DOCSIS 4 and getting, multiple symmetrical gigabit. We need more upstream spectrum, which means we're going to need to move some of the downstream spectrum. So you're seeing spectrum become a requirement for future proofing. That's why you're seeing 1.8 gigahertz on the upper end and on the reverse side going up to 600 to 700 megahertz. I think that's one of the two fundamental changes on future proofing. Again, the second one is intelligence. We've never had intelligence this deep in a cable network before. And that intelligence just allows a higher reliability, a higher customer sat, and a much better operating model for the cable customers.
So how does vertical integration with technology like laser and optics and amps really change the way that AOI supports cable operators today?
Yeah, it's all connected, right? So obviously that hybrid fiber coax is a combination of your fiber and your coax networks. So our ability to build out the HFC with amplifiers and nodes and add intelligence is a fundamental change. Our ability to build the tunable optics that's going to be required for doing the optical transmission and give the operators a lot of flexibility on distance and wavelengths and capacity is quite an advantage to them in working with AOI.
Cool. So if you had unlimited budget to redesign a cable network from scratch today, would you still choose HFC as the model?
Well, the answer to that, I think, for everyone would be no. Unfortunately, none of us have unlimited budget. And so I think if we had unlimited budget, we would pick an architecture that probably still doesn't even exist yet. But, we're all trying to run businesses. All these companies are public and they have a responsibility to shareholders. So the ideal goal is to create the ultimate customer satisfaction at the lowest cost of ownership. And that goes back to the question you asked before. What is driving network upgrades? Cost is always going to be a primary driver of that network. But future-proofing and adding the intelligence is a concern that they're all looking at. So no, if I had unlimited budget, but then again, I wouldn't drive the same car I drive today either. I'd have 2 or 3 for the things I do, but I don't have that option, and neither do our operators.
Makes sense. So what's one trend in the cable TV space that the industry isn't paying enough attention to today?
I would say that there's still a lack of understanding about the benefits of having intelligence and predictive analysis on their networks, how much that can save them in terms of both cost of operating the network, in terms of optimizing their labor force to work on revenue generating services as opposed to maintenance services. And ultimately important to them is customer satisfaction. If you can fix problems before they become customer impacting, you're going to have a happy customer. And I think that you're seeing some operators really getting very serious about having the intelligence deeper in their network. But I still think there's some people that are still being consumed with the cost as opposed to looking towards overall long-term cost and customer satisfaction. That's the oversight I see. It's changing quickly though.
What about AI in here? Do you see them embracing it? I know we have software that's helping when we talk about our tech being smarter. And when you talk about intelligence in the network, do you feel they're embracing that? It's here?
Yeah, we've talked about data analytics telemetry for 30, 40 years in all of telecom. And probably the biggest challenge is not getting the data. It's what to do with it. With budget concerns, having a bunch of analysts collecting, analyzing data, and providing feedback, those are typically the positions that get cut first. Now when we can add intelligence, machine intelligence, that take trends, take feedback, and can use that to provide insights to the teams on their network, I think that's where AI becomes really beneficial in this case, is that it can consume massive amounts of data, extrapolate outcomes, and then provide intelligence on what they need to go do preventatively and predictively across their network.
If you had to pick, will the next wave of innovation in cable be driven more by hardware, software, or network architecture?
I think it's a combination. I think the architecture is going to be the biggest next change. When you talk about convergence of service and inclusion of wireless into the network, I think that you're going to have to see a fundamental architectural change. We're going to be talking about a lot more bandwidth growth. We're going to be talking about a lot more intelligence closer to the customer. So I think there's going to be a fundamental change in architecture, which is going to drive a change in hardware, and the amount of software deeper in the network is going to grow exponentially.
What feedback are you hearing directly from customers that's shaping AOI's roadmap today?
I would say first and foremost is that's driving our strategy is intelligence. And they want more control over their network remotely. They want more ability to use that information predictively. And I would say the other fundamental change is they are talking about convergence like they've never talked about before. And so we're talking about what does that architecture look like, and what are the economics of that, and what's going to have to change in their existing footprint and the way that they have their architectures today in order to enable it. Is it a drop-in change? Highly unlikely. Is it a full rip and replace? Ideally not. And so those are the biggest discussions that we're having that's shaping our future.
Okay, so for operators making investment decisions today, what's the one mindset shift that they need to adopt to stay competitive?
It's going to sound very redundant, but I think it's addition of intelligence and predictability in their network. I think that is the ultimate goal is, again, they want to optimize the spend that they have. Ideally, every company wants to spend on revenue generating business as opposed to maintenance business. And so I think the fundamental shift is not just getting the network speeds, the network bandwidth they need, but how to run it more efficiently and more cost effective, and how to provide a better total experience for the customer. We've always talked about it, but I think the shift to that with how competitive it is for the end customer today is becoming a reality that they're having to take a hard look at.
Well, that wraps up our questions today. Thanks for stopping by, Todd. Always good to catch up.
Likewise. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.